showers of rain caress the flesh of earth, the same way an empathic palm places itself on the wounds of a distorted heartbeat, suffering with the imprisonment of its own allegory, repeating a chapter unfinished. I gaze for hours on end at the father's blessing washing the mother's body, rekindling an amiable melancholy that can only be found in the presence of a prayer between spirit and God, nostalgic for the moments of life past, but moving along with a way like the beauty of a Taoist smile. Fragility of the mind is dragged through every season, and what one perceives as a pernicious downfall of bemused emotions, another neutralizes truth as the body falls into submission of biological chaos, finding the focus of inhalations and exhalations as a catharsis. When the tip of the year finally reaches its demise, and we gather reflections and contemplations about our closing chapters, many celebrate the passing of time, but many are devoured by the time that's passed, like being cast as protagonist of a lament for a historic tragedy, feasting its pathos into the heart's yearning for a love once absorbed by its essence. Thoughts of a voluntary death seem to motivate the lost when the earth reaches the ending of its cycle around the sun, and I frequently hear from those dearest to my heart of their incessant and repressed ideas that seem to cater to the platter of influential reasoning toward why an escape from this reality seems beneficial not only for themselves, but to ease the burden of their suffering from others also, as if the family embrace was made only for the joyous and ebullient moments of human experience, and any despair that saunters the years of one's happiness will be waved away like a self-indulged aristocrat. It's an invidious state to exist in, with an awareness that barely weighs against a grain of rice. You spontaneously throw yourself down a deep well located in the middle of a war-beaten land, with hopes that a silhouette from the opening above will cover the light that pours itself onto you, and an arm will risk its sanity and reach forth to pull you from a darkness unknown. The darkness is unknown because you barely understand the foundations of your despair, like the motions of chaos occurring after a sudden removal of your heart holder's physical touch. Reality becomes distorted and all you see are remnants of reason that once connected your vision to your path. But now, a shredded paper mounts on top of itself. Your story too is verses that have lost themselves in mute imagination, piling up and retelling stories of a dreamer's plight. And as survival always denotes meaning, the survival here seems to be dwelling on finding a painless escape, seeking freedom from the bewildering and paradoxical love of God. Can we uproot the seed that grew into the stem that desired a removal of its breath from the web of life? For if you seek truth in this experience, there remains no more delusion when truth is realized. But if delusion maintains its theatricals, then the truth will be veiled by firmer delusions, leaving you building new worlds in your novella, speaking tongues of truth but distancing the heart further from the hub of eternity that calls every spirit home incessantly. All fleeting forces that captivate a moment's love is a call from home, but the costumes we are dressed in since the moment our cries reached the ears of strangers were worn and used for rehearsals by our distant ancestors, who subconsciously took their instincts for survival and carried them on for posterity's usage, leaving our collective unconscious a deep ocean of archetypal forces that possess the internal solitude forever recycling their charm and evils. The desire for death due to evocative despair or a loss of selfhood is a sine qua non to the opening of enlightenment, like the adored awakening of the sun that warms the shredded and torn remnants of a house after the brutality of Mother Earth's breath. A travesty may be perceived here, but in comprehending the double-sided sword that cuts through every fleeting second, you can see the dance of God that requires a fearless acceptance. You pray for strength and receive pain. You pray for guidance and receive bewilderment. You pray for love, you receive indifference. pray for truth, you receive falsehood. You pray for justice and receive a test of trust. The living species of this earth share a brief walk toward death, each being an ephemera. It's only the conscious mind that perceives its existence as a perdition, a punitive absurdity that rattles the receptacle of the mind when seeking answers for its mere breath in the vast expanse of a permeating breath that cloaks the entirety of understanding, the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknowable. And it's only when the rational mind accepts the finitude of its own knowledge that either a paradise or freedom can be found, or hell's encompassing walls box the one that claims superiority over God, desecrating any stepping stones laid by the beloved's compassion. How many hours has the imagination sauntered through the wilderness of history, seeing an actor playing a role you share no present affinity with, keeping the question of free will embedded in the background with the illusory and ephemeral bliss of ignorance that cures the impatient. It's in this lens you see the presence of spirit that has forever stitched the fabric of your being, compassionately awaiting the arrival of attention and intention, to relieve you from the clay of Adam's haunting mistake, as every man and woman to this present day continues to follow the shackles of gut and lust, like a perennial imprisonment of every awakening to the colors and songs of Earth's invidious but mellifluous masterpiece. If you befriended loneliness and took its hand with courage, you will be led through a maze of subliminal mirrors, and each mirror denoting a self familiar, like memory had created an exhibition called The Constituents of Your Shadow, exhibiting the attributes of God to the loaded eye, with purposeful intent intended to release you from the guernica of your thoughts. As one who observes art with religious duty, you too take the stance of the observing presence, becoming as naked as the spirit. You become absorbed by the divinity of stillness, and you begin to hear the ethereal song sung by the seraph through a beloved silence, seeing the puzzle of body, mind and soul completely fractured back into a dozen pieces, and what was once an earthly identification has become a celestial disintegration. Now you see with the eye of the universe. This is no walk on a solemn spring evening though. The solitude I volunteered to find the battlefield of unconditional love, and many ditches are laid in staring at the magnificent canopy, protecting every living being from the monstrous but simultaneously gorgeous sun, hoping for a force greater than my own will to absolve me from the sin of my own lack of faith, and guide me through the years of every tragedy and victory of Earth's mountainous timeline. But it was in my isolated gorge that I found the luminous spirit which remains hidden to the eye that sees nothing but the form of the formless. It spoke silent poetry, and what once was a child of my mother reflected through the streams below the feet was now a reflection of the child of God, and with me the entire family of Earth began to move in canonical motion. But yet, these momentary bursts of eternal death are as fleeting as the seasons that drag us through their motions of chaos and order, allowing us to write poetry with the elements that make us. I wrestle God daily like the student of a sensei. Whispers of the arrogant hero aiming to conquer his own reflection with the regal throne of the universe's inimitable will that breathes life into its own creativity. Stay seeking superiority. But when Monet's heartfelt greenery is tyrannized by Pollock's blameworthy flickers of destructive order, it's here the motions of the way keep your spine neither hunched nor stretched, but subliminally erected like the tree of life, stood in the middle of the horizon between east and west, surrendering its will to the will of the way. And no matter the loss of fruit or life, it continues breathing and giving, creating and dying to itself, submitting itself and seeking not even a heavenly promise, the same way the seers have been seeds harvested to give the nude eye of wisdom, only to be understood by the luminous heart that silently rots alone. A simultaneously writing the lament of the day essence found life through death. The human experience is a state of angst and breath, like a swimmer's strokes against the flowing stillness of a pool. And if you sow your imagination to the photo album of hereditary experiences, you can embrace the flourishing but treacherous poem that's been written in the poet's room, and forever keep revealing verses of fleeting and reincarnating motions of creation and death, like the soul of misery was occupying the resistant soul of love. But if you see through the eye of the one that records every deed and misdeed, beginning with what the mirror perceives as I, you find yourself in the vast desert of eternity, bearing witness that the only constant that appears from another birth till the light leaves the earthly eye is the forgotten silence and stillness of the witness's self. And if you are patient enough, every interaction becomes a compassionate destruction of the mouth that speaks, seeing through the veil and unfolding the divinity that speaks no language between two differentiated forms of unified essence. But the possession of persona is strong. Many stay sleeping throughout, and the only arm you can give reach with is the silent force of love that shoots through form to the formless, with the spirit's desire of awakening the grandness of oneness. The voluntary demise of self is always available to the decider, but the physical body does not have to pass. Only the imagination must bury the damaged film reel in the field of stories forgotten, and the unseen birth within a birth occurs, like an abstract dream of our Mother Earthly soil giving birth to a face familiar. And it is then, detached from past, a new verse is revealed like a prophet after initiation, saying, poverty favors potential. The firm spine empties the organs of old. The darkness is only solid when the breast is fleshly and cold. The guiding wick is the length of a noose, and as one tightens, the other burns. Only this fire is struck by karmic paradise, and this tightness is the curse of passion and desire. As the wick's burn reaches its end, the shell awaits its death, an explosion of earthly memory. Now oneness is birthed with a breath.